Congressman, my first question is on the Armenian genocide resolution. Now that we have more than 225 co-sponsors, and committee is where all the eyes are looking. Where do we go from now?
Well, what we do now is what we did a few years ago when we got the bill out of committee. If you'll recall, I've served on foreign affairs for a number of years, and I carried in the state senate in California the first genocide resolution recognizing the Armenian genocide. We got that out of the California state senate with a little help from our friend George Deukmejian at the time, who was governor. But we were able, a few years ago, to actually get this very resolution, which I was working on at the time, out of committee and onto the House floor. Now, at that point in time, President Clinton, I believe, contacted Speaker Hastert, and they dissuaded or they convinced the leadership not to bring it up on the House floor. But where we're focused right now is we're explaining to the members, listen, the French National Assembly, the French have recognized the genocide. The Germans, the German government, have now recognized the genocide. And for those of us who are Republicans, Ronald Reagan, as president, recognized the genocide. So it is time that we officially, as a Congress of the United States, do this. And so we're in the process right now of talking to members. I'm whipping it on the Republican side in order to have the votes there if we can schedule this before committee.
And why is it important for the U.S. Congress to recognize the Armenian genocide, an event that took place in a different part of the world 92 years ago?
Well, as my father would explain, and he was involved during the Second World War with U.S. forces when they went into Dachau, the concentration camp. He actually took photographs there. He was an amateur photographer. And ever since, he's been quite outspoken on the way in which the international community can be silent at times about genocide. And one of the things that he reminds people of is Hitler's comment back to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the Reich. And Hitler said, when he was warned, well, you can't do this. He was warned. But he said, well, who speaks today of the annihilation of the Armenians? The reality is that history can repeat itself, and it will do so, especially if we don't get history right. And if we don't have it acknowledged in terms of what actually happened in history. And when you have something as horrific as a genocide in which over 1.5 million Armenians perished in Western Anatolia and in Turkey in that genocide, another over 500,000 left homeless. When you have something on that scale and it is not acknowledged, there is the danger that it could be repeated. And I think another reason it's important to us is because the country of Armenia is struggling today. And here it is in the grips of a embargo imposed by Turkey and by Azerbaijan. They're in a tough neighborhood. In the last 3 years, we've seen Azerbaijan increase its defense budget 638%. If we wonder about how Armenia struggles in this environment, I'll just share with you that the Index of Economic Freedom, which measures how much progress different countries make, worldwide lists Turkey at 83. Young Armenia is listed as 32 in the world. So you can see the amount of reform going on in that country, but at the same time you can see the discrimination, and you can see the high tariffs imposed by its neighbors in terms of goods and services getting in and out of the country. So this not only speaks to the past, it speaks to the survival today of Armenia and the Armenian people. It's one of the reasons that we've been involved in efforts to try to champion the Millennium Challenge account. And as you know, Armenia will receive over $235 million for its rural areas, for its agriculture, to help rebuild its roads. But at the same time, what we're also trying to do is knock down that embargo. And to do that, of course, we also have export-import and OPEC, and as you know, my friend Congressman Crowley from New York and myself championed the legislation to explicitly prevent any funding for any rail line that goes through that region and bypasses Armenia. And so we're going to continue to speak out for the truth and point out the obvious and use U.S. power and prestige and the fact that this country is based on an ideal, that ideal is freedom, in order not only to try to help Armenia today, but to have the record books, the history books, properly record all over the world what happened. And frankly, when Congress speaks, It helps focus people's attention on what's actually happening in the world.
And precisely in the case of Darfur today, I mean, the moral authority of the U.S. Congress by speaking out about past genocides, and you've been very involved, very active in also in speaking out against the situation in Darfur. So, what perils do you see there?
Well, that's a very good point, because I took the actor Don Cheadle, along with Paul Rusesabagina, who he portrays in the movie Hotel Rwanda, along with a Nightline television camera crew, into Darfur, Sudan, and recorded the aftermath of an attack there. We went into the village of Tinné, which now has a population of a handful of people. It was once a vibrant community. We talked to survivors of different attacks while we were there, and basically had a documentary. Actually, 2 documentaries were produced out of it on that genocide, and subsequently we were able to get a genocide resolution through the United Nations after we passed it here through the Congress. And the point is that in so doing, we've now put enormous pressure on China to quit providing the arms. You know, just as China provided the arms used by Rwanda in the genocide in Rwanda, so they're now providing the arms here. And so that kind of pressure, I think, can help mobilize the international community. And let's think again about the point President Reagan made when he recognized the Armenian genocide. He spoke of, you know, the Holocaust, the Armenian genocide, and then the genocide in Cambodia that, again, took 2 million lives. And he was making the point that, you know, basically, if we don't speak out, history can repeat itself. Here it is today, repeating itself with a radical fundamentalism that is driving, you know, the Janjaweed, and the Khartoum government is right behind it. I mean, the Khartoum government is actually involved in helping fund this. So again, to me, pointing these things out and trying to educate people around the world and trying to get an admission as to what is happening is very, very important in terms of human rights. If you don't get the past right, there's a danger you're not going to get the future right. And we should call the Armenian genocide for what it is, genocide.
Congressman, what is your take on the recent statement, the recent letter signed by 8 former secretaries of state?
I read the letter, but clearly I'm of the opinion that if President Reagan could speak out, if the National Assembly in France could speak out, if the German government can speak out, if historians all around the world can speak out, it's time for the United States Congress to speak out, regardless of what kind of angst you know, that might cause some in foreign affairs. I just think you try to do the right thing, and that's what we need to do.
Congressman, one of the issues that is constantly raised, especially in the Turkish media, is how this is, now that Congress is under Democratic majority, it is the Democrats who are pushing for this. And it is sometimes ignored the fact that this is not just, the Armenian Genocide Resolution is not just supported by Democrats, it's supported across the board. How can we make the case for that?
Well, I think people forget that it was under the Republican majority that we actually got the resolution out of committee in the past, and it was under a Republican president. The only occasion I remember, it was under President Reagan that the Armenian genocide was addressed. And so, as one who's labored long and hard on this, and as the one who carried the first genocide resolution, Armenian genocide resolution, in the state Senate in California, and passed that, to have that you know, basically signed by Governor George Deukmejian, I'm well aware of the fact that, you know, this is a bipartisan effort, and I would think anyone who is trying to claim otherwise is being a little political. And frankly, with these kinds of issues, we should keep the partisan politics out of it. I mean, we're talking about human rights, and we're talking about, you know, history here. And so I appreciate you asking that question, because it's good to get that history right too. We passed that resolution out of the committee successfully with the help of Republicans and Democrats when the Republicans were in the majority.
Congressman, my concluding question is on Speaker Pelosi. Now, she's obviously under tremendous pressure, and also it boils down to her decision to put this to vote or not. What do you think the Armenian community, activists in the United States, people concerned about the importance of this can do in order to help her put this to vote?
Well, I think the Armenian community is doing what it believes is proper to do. It is contacting its representatives in the Congress across this country. It's also contacting the members of the United States Senate, and I know this because, well, I have 2 Armenian Americans on my staff, one here in Washington, one in the district. So I go to a lot of Armenian events, and so I am very, very cognizant as to how active the Armenian American community is on this, and I think they're taking all the steps that they need to take with all the letters and phone calls and emails and everything else that I see and rallies. They're doing what needs to be done in order to raise awareness to this issue and to gather co-sponsors. I think we have 235 co-sponsors now on the bill. I'm one of the original co-sponsors, but I've watched this build, and so I give credit to the Armenian American community for what they've done here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.